Hello and welcome. We start with the civil war in Sudan. The Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or the RSF, claim new gains in their 2-year-long war with the army. The RSF says it has captured 2 strategic towns in the war-ravaged nation. The key towns are Dbebat in South Kordofan State and Al-Khoi in West Kordofan State, near the border with South Sudan. Now, Al-Khoi is located around 100 kilometers from Al-Obeid, and it's a major crossroads between Khartoum and the Darfur region. It had briefly been captured by the army earlier this month. Now, as per reports, the RSF is continuing shelling in this area, killing at least 6 people. This RSF advance marks the latest chapter in 2 years of civil war in Africa's 3rd largest country. The war pits the army, led by the de facto ruler General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, against the paramilitary RSF, led by Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo. The conflict has effectively split Sudan in 2. The army controls the center, east and north, and the RSF holds most of Darfur in the west and parts of the south. The war has killed tens of thousands, displaced 13 million, and triggered what the UN calls the world's worst humanitarian crisis. Last week, the military-backed government said it had cleared the last RSF bases in Khartoum state. The army had recaptured the capital city 2 months ago. While fighting is escalating elsewhere in the country, Khartoum remains a major battlefield. Amidst this, the capital now also faces a deepening health crisis. A cholera outbreak has claimed 70 lives this week. More than 2,100 new infections were reported in the last 2 days. Officials say that 89% of patients in isolation centers are recovering, but warn that worsening environmental conditions are fueling a sharp rise in cases. The cholera surge comes weeks after drone strikes blamed on the RSF destroyed water and power infrastructure across Khartoum. The capital now faces a full-scale health emergency. At least 90% of hospitals in the conflict zones are out of service due to the war.
If we calculate the losses in the electricity sector, water plants, and other service facilities like hospitals and other buildings, they exceed millions or billions. They exceed billions of dollars.
Aid agencies warn that without immediate intervention, the situation will deteriorate further. As the rainy season begins next month, it will become difficult for civilians to access humanitarian aid. Sudan's government also faces fresh U.S. sanctions over accusations that its military used chemical weapons last year in its offensive against the RSF. The Foreign Ministry has announced the formation of a national committee to investigate. It also expressed disbelief in the validity of the U.S. administration's accusations. As the crisis deepens, Sudan's 50 million people face grave danger. Nearly half of the population is suffering from severe food insecurity. To make matters worse, a surge in endemic diseases is intensifying the humanitarian situation. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Moses Crispus Okello, a senior researcher at the Horn of Africa Security Program, Institute for Security Studies, and he is joining us from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Alyson.
Now, what is the strategic importance of Dbebat and Al-Khoi in South and West Kordofan? And how does their capture by the RSF shift the balance of power in the conflict?
Thanks once again, Alyson. As you have stated, the RSF has just a couple of days ago taken debate and Al-Khoi in South Kordofan as well as West Kordofan, respectively. And these 2 locations are located very strategically on a main artery that connects Khartoum to the Kordofans to Darfur. So in a way, these captures help the RSF to consolidate its presence in the west of Sudan, and also to facilitate linkages with the other Miseria and tribes fighting alongside the RSF in the southern Kordofan and western Kordofan areas. However, I think it will be important to mention that this conflict has gone back and forth, and it would be too early to say that this new capture creates a significant strategic shift in the conflict.
Right. And with the cholera infections surging and essential infrastructure in Khartoum compromised by RSF drone strikes, what are the immediate and the long-term humanitarian implications for civilians, especially in the conflict zones like the capital and in the Kordofan region?
There is no doubt that the RSF has figured out the strategic value of disabling the city by creating an environment that allows an outbreak of cholera and other waterborne diseases. And this is, in the short term, quite significant. We're seeing quite a bit of deaths already in the hundreds every week, and there's a likelihood that this will continue. As you mentioned, if the rains come and if they come very hard, we can only see a rapid a spread of this disease on top of the other humanitarian concerns that are already in Sudan. So this new development, this outbreak of cholera, layers over the conflict and complicates what is already a dire situation in Sudan, and will definitely add to the death toll of the conflict in general.
Yes. And Moses, given the proximity of these contested towns to South Sudan, what are the potential regional ramifications of the RSF's territorial gains, particularly in terms of cross-border tensions, refugee flows, and, of course, the risk of conflict spilling over?
Right, Alyson. The two areas that the RSF has recently captured are quite in close proximity to the border of South Sudan, a country which is already reeling under its own conflict, incidentally located pretty close to the Kordofans, where this new development is taking place. So there is no doubt that given the porous borders, there's going to be a degree of overlap between the two conflicts, which will certainly strain the already bad relationship between Juba and Port Sudan. And this is one of those kind of developments that, if not checked very soon, might very easily morph into something slightly bigger and perhaps suck in Ethiopia or communities on the Ethiopian border, which lie slightly to the east of these new developments. So this is worsens South Sudan's economic crisis, in that it puts the oil and danger. So there is a likelihood of a deterioration in the pumping of oil, which already has been disturbed by the drone strike that we saw in Port Sudan sometime last week.
Yes. Moses, thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost Africa and for your valued insights and analysis.
Thank you, Alyson.
Firstpost now available in 9 languages on YouTube. English,
Stands at $36 trillion.
French,
Le FMI, comme
German,
Geschäftsführenden Direktor,
Hindi,
$30 trillion ka-charge mo.
Indonesian,
Pemerintah tanpa pemeriksaan.
Italian,
Skali radikali.
Japanese,
$4 trilhão mo.
Portuguese,
Por causa do próprio balanço patrimonial.
Spanish,
Beautiful bill.
Go to Settings, click on Audio Track and select a language of your choice. Be the first to know what's happening around you in your first language. Firstpost.